This is Anitra Rice, life coach, educator, speaker, and martial artist. And I'm on with a
Right.
special guest, Josiah Rice. This is the eldest of my three sons. Tonight we're talking about parenting mistakes and redemption, a parent and child perspective. If you know me by now, I get, pretty personal. And I do that for a reason because it tears down the walls between people and to let people know that they're not alone, that, it's okay to make mistakes and that there is redemption and that this journey as a parent, the truth is that we will make mistakes because we are human. And so I'm going to be very vulnerable. I'm going to talk about something that happened with me as a parent as it relates to specifically Josiah. We already talked about it before. We've talked about it quite a few times. And about something that I did when he was younger that impacted him in a negative way, that really brought him a lot of pain, a lot of a tremendous pain. And so how we recover from that as mother and son, and how how it impacted him as a youth, as a child, and then how it impacted him later on in life as a teenager, and how we were able to get past that and move forward in order for him to heal and for me to take responsibility and to take personal responsibility while creating a space that was safe enough for him to feel safe to heal. So that's what we're talking about tonight. I'm just gonna be, like I said, really transparent and really open. Hey Sarah, thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. If you could just share this video on your personal pages where it says invite friends. Hey everybody. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Regina, for joining. So tonight we're talking about parenting mistakes and redemption, a personal story, and from a parent-child perspective. This is my special guest, Josiah Rice. This is my oldest son, and I'm going to just be honest, you guys, and be really transparent about some things or a particular incident in his childhood where I wounded him emotionally, in his emotional space. I wounded my child, and how did we recover from that? How did that impact him? And how did I take ownership of it? And how did I create an atmosphere that allowed him to heal? And what did that look like? So I'm going to give the story, and then Josiah will give his perspective of it and how it impacted him. So years ago, you guys, I used to homeschool, and I was so elated and delighted to homeschool my kids, but at the same time, I was petrified. And I was petrified because I was afraid that I was going to mess them up, and I didn't know what I was doing. And now when I homeschooled, I was not a certified teacher. In fact, my first degree is in music. That's my first degree. And so I was thinking, how can I do this? I'm going to mess up my kids. But, I researched it. I did my best. And, he's doing well. He's on his way to college now. But I had so much in me by way of insecurities. And I had so many voices in my head and in my ear telling me that I was not enough, I was not good enough, and it was my goal to silence those voices by proving them wrong. I had voices of family, voices of friends who are telling me, "Oh, you're not good enough, and what are you doing? How are you going to be this isn't even normal." I'm a Black woman in the middle of Detroit, in the hood, thinking I'm going to homeschool my children, and my family, a lot of them at the time, just they weren't having it. And I would get so much backlash, and I felt so much anxiety about it that when I would teach my kids, sometimes it would come through. Namely, when they would come upon a subject that or way of doing things within, me teaching them, that I would get frustrated. Like if they didn't do it to a certain level of not necessarily perfection, but I guess eclipse it to perfection, I would have issue with it. And the issue wasn't even necessarily with them and where they were as far as their progress. It was everything with these voices in my head that I had to prove wrong and that I was enough. Because the voices inside, the voices from family, but then to combine with my own insecurities of needing to prove that I was good enough and worthy, and that I was worthy of love and worthy of accolades and attention from my family that I was starved for. I took it out on him. So one day Josiah had an assignment where he was supposed to do it. You laugh now, but it wasn't funny then.
Yeah.
He was supposed to do a writing assignment, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was a writing assignment.
Mm-hmm.
So the writing assignment for Josiah, you were in third grade?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was in third grade, 8 years old, just to give you just the basis of everything. So Josiah was 8 years old in third grade, and I was homeschooling him, and I gave him a writing assignment, and he took a long time during this writing assignment. It was painstaking for him. He didn't like to write, for one, but he did his absolute best, and he wrote about an imaginary world that he and his brothers and his dad made up. And yeah, I remember that. And so he wrote about this imaginary world, and he just put so much detail into it. And then when I saw it, when I read it, instead of me saying, Josiah, this is great, I'm so proud of you, I looked at his penmanship and I ripped him up. And I said, Josiah, look at this. What's wrong? This is unacceptable. I will not take this. And it was pretty. I remember the penmanship, and I remember me yelling.
The penmanship. I remember that.
And I remember me yelling at you. And then after that, Josiah got really upset, and I said, I told him that he had no reason to get upset and to stop being upset. And basically, I give you a reason to be upset if you want to be upset. And so, with that, he stuffed in his emotions. And I went upstairs, or I made him sit and rewrite it. No, first what I did was I took an eraser and I erased.
Yeah, you took the pencil.
Well,
I
took the pencil and had an eraser.
Yeah.
So I took the pencil out of his hand with the eraser, and I erased his work that he had worked so hard to complete. So I shamed him. I invalidated his feelings. I told him that he couldn't feel, and I told him what to feel, and I told him that his work was not good enough, which really he internalized to mean I am not good enough. And so with that, I went upstairs, and Josiah went out the door, and he ran away. It's not funny. I was so upset. I was angry, and when he came back, I was fuming, but so was he.
When you got me back.
Yeah, because it was a minute, when I got him back. But it was a pretty horrible scene. And so all of that, though, was because I felt this internal pressure of not being good enough and not doing enough to prove to my family, or prove to everybody else, prove to myself that I was good enough to homeschool my kids, or prove to whomever else that I was just good enough, period, and worthy of love, that I took it out on him. Now, this is not an indictment against homeschool, because we were very successful with homeschooling. This is just an incident. And I mean, the truth is, we can do the same thing in the classroom as a teacher. Or you don't necessarily have to homeschool. You can be helping your kids with their homework, and you can have the same situation occur, right? It's not about homeschooling at all. So I love homeschooling, although, right now, of course, I'm a traditional classroom teacher. But what happened was, later on, Josiah came to me and told me when he was a teenager. Now this incident happened when he was 8. When he was a teenager, he came to me and told me, and was like, Mom, this is how this impacted me. And it wasn't, when he told me, though, it was like I had to pull it out of him because it was a very, very, very painful place for him. And it caused him a lot of internal shame. Remember, shame says that I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, something is wrong with me, I don't have any value, I don't have anything to contribute to the world. What I have to contribute is really is garbage. I am not important. And so this lesson, this thing that happened when he was 8 years old, because of the shame that I was feeling, because of the pain that I was feeling that I had not dealt with, and that I parented him through my own issue, it transferred to him, and his internal language became, I am not enough. And so I want him to pick it up from there and to tell you how it impacted him. And then I'll tell you the redemption of it, because there is redemption. Obviously, we're here, right? There is redemption. But I want you to hear Josiah's story.
All right, so I don't remember all the fine details. I do remember I was 8. I remember it was in our dining room. And for context, I have horrible, my handwriting is kind of atrocious.
That's a judgment.
I mean,
It's just it's what it is. Go ahead.
but I remember that particular day. It was in the little writing book I'm in. I purposely tried, not only with the details and stuff, I remember I tried to write as neat as I possibly could. And I don't remember how long it took. I know it took longer. I know it took over 45 minutes. I know that.
For an 8-year-old writing, that's awesome.
Mhm.
I didn't see that though. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I wrote all slow, and I was really proud of this. I was like, yeah, I nailed this. And I remember, dang, I can't believe it's like this fuzzy. I remember that when I showed my mom to check it for me, pretty much what she said. I don't really remember her yelling at me. I do remember her not being satisfied with the work, and I remember it's like the biggest thing was when she erased it and said I had to rewrite it. And then after that, like after she erased it, I balled up my fist, and it wasn't balled up like I'ma fight you, but no, it was just like on the table, like I was going through it. And she said, "Did you just ball your fist at me?" And needless to say, I got kind of cut into about that. So she went back upstairs, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I'm not about to rewrite this. I worked so hard on this. And
Can we pause for a second? How did it make you feel though? What were you feeling when I took the pencil out of your hand and erased your work? What were you feeling?
Really angry and then silence. I felt invalidated. I didn't have the emotional vocabulary at the time, but I felt invalidated. I felt like, for context, a lot of my early childhood, I felt like I had to perform extremely well and hold up the expectations of not just my mom but my family, because she had all this pressure from family and friends, and that pressure shined through on her and came through her. I feel like I was carrying all that on my back, especially being the oldest child. So that is a moment where, again, I was like, it wasn't good enough. And because I internalized my emotions, I remember when I decided to run away, they were upstairs and I was looking at the door. I was like, there's no point. They obviously don't care. I'm not good enough for my family. That I should just go. I stared at like the door for like 5 minutes. It wasn't like I just ran out in a fit of emotion. It's like I stood at it and hesitated for a long, long time. And I remember just feeling frustrated with, I was frustrated with my mom at first, but after I sucked it in, I became frustrated with myself.
What was the frustration for you?
Like, why couldn't I write neither?
So because of the things that I had experienced, hearing this still, you guys, just hearing my baby, I know he's 18, he's still my baby, but hearing how my actions impacted him, it's still just, I don't feel the judgment, the self-judgment that I've felt in the past, but it still breaks my heart. But the thing is, my children are my reason for facing my stuff, because I know that their healing is a direct result of my own healing. And we're going to talk about that with the redemption. We're going to talk about that, because when I started my own healing journey, it literally changed the atmosphere in my home. It literally changed the way I parent my children. It changed the way I interact with them. It changed the way I talk to them. It changed the way that I create a safe space for them to tell me, Mom, you hurt me. Mom, you hurt me when this happened. And so I welcome them to say that to me, so that I can say, okay, let's talk about this. How did I hurt you? And for me to take responsibility for what's mine, to take responsibility of, and for me to help them to move in their healing journey. Because this is one thing too, you guys. Someone at one time hurt me, right? Now, or some people, different people in my family, things that I went through, not in my family, but outside of the family, from people, different friends who I experienced childhood sexual trauma through, and all of that. I carried this pain, right? Now, here's the thing. Somebody could throw some sugar honey iced tea, some crap, boo-boo on you, right? Now, it's crazy that they would throw some crap on you, right? But do you want to go around stinking for the rest of your life? No. You don't want it. You're not responsible for the person who threw the crap on you. Shame on them. And yes, they need to have some consequences, right? But I don't want to go around stinking either. So what do? I deal with my pain. That is my responsibility. I deal with that. And if you don't deal with it, when you go around contaminated, you're going to go around touching other people, contaminating them. Mm-hmm. And that's what I did as a mom who had all this stuff going on inside of me. I began to contaminate my children. And so what was the pivotal point for you, Josiah? Hey, Dee Dee. Hey, cousin. Thank you for joining. Hey, Livy and Denise and Lori. Thank you, everyone, Shimon, for joining. Josiah, what was a pivotal moment for you when you realized how much pain you were in as a teenager, and that it was directly related to some of the things that you experienced through my parenting as a child?
I want to say, I think it was like someplace that,
like, get close.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I want to say it was someplace around the end of 10th grade, beginning of 11th grade, and I had a lot of self-esteem issues, mm-hmm. a lot of things of I have to be this certain type of way, mm-hmm. and a lot of me taking responsibility for things I didn't have to take. I shouldn't take mm-hmm. responsibility for.
Right.
I'm trying to think of
such as
the actions of others, my brother. If there was a whole period, I'm still working on it, where I would say sorry for everything. Like, seriously, you don't understand. Like, every single sentence, and it was sorry. Yeah, I'll do better. Sorry. Yeah. It's no exaggeration.
Not at all. Yeah. What was
I'm trying to think of the moment.
It was it's kind of fuzzy. I remember you were like really self-deprecating, and you were like really hard on yourself. This was like when he was he is still a teenager, but like in his sophomore year of high mm-hmm. school. And he's not a teenager necessarily. He's 18 now. He's a young man.
I graduated.
but he was going through he just was really hard on himself and really down on himself. Oh, I know what it was. Josiah, at one point, it was difficult for him to be quiet, in a quiet space. Yep. It was difficult for him to be in a quiet space and sit quietly with himself. And it was difficult. He was really chattery, and he was had a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, and I would
fidget all the time. And I was like, and so at this point, I had already begun my healing journey, and I was coaching. And so I started coaching Josiah, and I intuitively I knew that there was something that he needed to tell me about me. I did some type of intuitive exercise with him where he was able to get in touch with like some things on a deeper level of what was going on behind his actions and what was he really afraid of, as far as why couldn't he be still and or sit quietly by himself. It was too much for him to sit in silence. And so I began to coach him on it, and some things began to come up, and I could tell that he was afraid to share with me that I had pissed him off and that I had wounded him. And I felt it. And so I sat with him and I looked him in his face and I said, right now, I want you to tell me how I hurt you. Tell me how I hurt you. Whew. Guys, I'm getting kind of emotional. But I told him, I was like, I don't care if you have to shout at me. I don't care if you have to scream at me. Tell me, Mom, you pissed me off. And I gave him permission. I know that sounds crazy, you guys, but I held his hands in my hands, and I was like, Josiah, tell me. It's okay. I give you permission to tell me. And what was that like for you?
It was weird. Because I was terrified. It was very weird and therapeutic in a way of, it was almost like going back in time and getting to restart. I didn't yell or scream or curse or anything of that. I was respectful, but it was like, it felt like being heard, and it, for the first time in a long time, it took a weight off my shoulders. Because for so long, I internalized that and made that about myself, and I carried that. And for the longest time, I stopped thinking of it as Mom did this to me, and I started thinking I didn't do good enough, so that's why all that happened. But that almost rewrote the script by saying you did this, and that made me feel this. It took the responsibility of that whole incident in my life, the responsibility of the pain off my shoulders. Because and before I was thinking I caused that.
So how did you? Because you could have stayed stuck there. You could have stayed stuck in that place of blame and blaming me. But we're not there, because if blame takes your power and gives it away to somebody else. So obviously I'm not in a place of blaming people that hurt me, nor is Josiah in a place of blaming me for everything that went wrong in his life. And truly, as parents, I don't want us to take on everything, because there are other influencers and everything that has been in his life that has impacted him as well. But I do take responsibility for what is mine to take responsibility for. And I've forgiven myself. I've asked his forgiveness. And I've practiced self-compassion, knowing that I could not parent in that moment out of what I did not know. But now that I know more, I do more and I do better. Now that I know better, I do better. But how did you, Josiah, move from, because it seemed like it happened instantaneously, because like in that moment, you did not blame me. And it was like, I felt this deeper connection with you, like instantly, like when you were able to get that off your chest. How was it that you were able to move and shift from blame so quickly? That's interesting to me.
You ask hard questions.
It's not hard. It's just
I know.
It makes you go deeper. Go deep.
How? Well, I think there's a couple of reasons. Some of it being my personality, some of it being the type of relationship and the instance. I'll tackle all of those. For one, the fact that you gave me permission and that you were there with me. That's different, because I've been in situations where I blame people. But when you give someone permission, it becomes an open conversation and dialogue. It allows you to move past that. I hope that's...
So that me sense. Giving you permission to feel it and to be honest with you.
And to express, yeah.
And to express, to emote. Right, okay.
Yeah, it meant that I was shared and understood by both parties about what happened. Also, I'm like a very compassionate person. I mean, kind of to a fault. I don't want to sound arrogant or anything, but I give a lot of chances to everybody, and I don't like to hold on to negative energy. Like, I even talked to my ex, and she cheated on me. So,
That's a
just-
conversation
I
for
know,
another
I know.
day. We won't talk about that right now.
But
we won't talk about that, Josiah. That's something else for another day. But
yeah, but between those two things, and I guess how do I word this? I'm trying to find the words. Because it felt like going back in time. And that's really, it's
going
like,
back in time and healing that wound.
yeah, it was literally like, oh, that's my alarm. Let me go turn it off. Or
Well, it will turn off by itself.
no.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
He's going to turn off his alarm. But I'll just, while he's taking a quick break real quick, you guys, I just want to kind of like recap and just what we're talking about, parenting, mistakes, and redemption, and from a parent-child perspective. And we're talking about some mistakes that I made as a parent, parenting out of my wounds, and how when I began to, Josiah, oh, okay. When I began to heal from my own dysfunction and heal from my own pain, I was then able to parent my children from a different space, a space of love and a space of understanding that allowed room for him to heal, room for my other children to heal as well, because I was healing. Remember, I talked in past broadcasts about how fear constricts, fear confines, fear limits your possibilities, fear limits your perspective and your ability to create opportunities. Fear does that, and that's how I parented in the past with different things, but love expands, right? Love creates opportunities. Love creates possibilities. And so as I began to grow in love for myself and understanding God's love for me, and as I continue, because the thing is, it's not just a one-time thing, you guys. There are things that come up on a regular basis that I have to go back and say, uh-oh, I didn't parent out of love in that instance. But because I have more awareness and they have more awareness of it, it's not as painful and laborious a process as it was in the past. Mm-hmm. And so we're constantly growing, constantly maturing, because as a parent, I am dealing on a daily basis, intentionally, I am dealing with my own pain, the things that I have endured as a child, the things that I have endured in this life that has caused me to parent out of fear. I'm dealing with those things, and it creates this wonderful opportunity for connection with my children. It creates a wonderful opportunity for connection, not just connection, but healing. Josiah, I interrupted you, though, because you went to go get your phone.
Yeah. So what I was saying was, one of the things that helped me get past it without blaming her or for it to come out as a way of saying, you did this and I'm never going to get past it, was one, because, just to recap, one, because she gave me permission to emote and express my emotions directly to her, and I knew that she was listening.
One moment, sweetie, because you said I gave you permission. What do you mean by I gave you permission? What did that really look like?
It literally was her saying, that little boy in you who was silenced, let him say whatever he felt in that moment. Like looking at me and saying, go back to that place. Because the memory was fresh in my mind. Mm-hmm. It's foggy now because I've healed from it.
Yeah.
But in the moment,
I remember.
It was like,
yeah.
Vivid. It was like, It was like I could go back there in my mind and relive that moment over and over again. Mm-hmm. And it was literally like me mentally going back into that space when I was younger. Mm-hmm. And almost as like it just happened, saying what I felt in that moment. Mm-hmm. And for her saying, I'll listen and accept what you're saying.
Without judgment.
Yeah.
To listen what you're saying and accept it, and accept your truth, validate you, acknowledge your pain. Acknowledge it. It happened. It was real.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, it was real. It was real for him. He was 8 years old and his pain was real. A lot of times as parents, what I've noticed is a lot of times we say to our kids, oh, your pain isn't really real. You're only 8, 5, 6, 7, 10 years old. You don't have any nerves, is what parents when a child feels like someone has gotten on their nerves. You don't have any nerves. You're too young to feel that feeling. I'll tell you what pain really is. Pain is this, but that's not okay, because our children really do feel pain. They really do feel pain. And it's so important that we take the time to acknowledge and validate their human experience, because they are human beings, flesh and blood, and they have thoughts, they have feelings, and it is real to them. As real as our emotions are in whatever time that we're experiencing, it is real to them when they are experiencing, no matter what age they are in. It is real. As real as this table, their feelings are real. And when we don't acknowledge and validate them, it can lead to trauma for them and pain in their lives. So go ahead, sweetie.
Yeah, I agree with everything she said. Like, it's an important in that process. What I don't want any of you guys or any person to be confused with living in the past. That's not what we're talking about here. You can't, or trying to say change the past. That's not what we did. You can't change the past. Mm-mm. Everyone knows that. But you can acknowledge it. Mm-hmm. And you can deal with it. Because feelings they don't go away. You think they do, but they'll manifest in different ways. Even if they change shape and do something different, they're going to manifest. They're going to affect your actions, your point of view, your thoughts. They're very deep. We're like onions, right? So what you do by living back in the moment, because I'm sure all of us can go back to a moment of pain, and that's really real to us. Extreme emotions make memories more vivid. That goes from happiness to anger to sadness. And you can go back and relive those and be in the moment. And it can be hard. But by doing that, and by going back and reliving those, but with the knowledge and experiences you have now, you can initiate healing.
Especially when you in your now, you acknowledge your own pain. You acknowledge your own pain, and you validate what your experiences are, and you create the space to be able to heal. And that's something that I do with my clients. Working with clients, I help them to face things that may have been difficult for them to face, and then I help them create a new story out of it and move them forward, so that they can create the life that they haven't even yet began to dream about. That's what I do as a coach, and that's what I love to do, because that's what my experience has been. Guys, I'm a life coach now, and I'm doing all these things and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. But I have a story, and I wanted to bring Josiah on because I'm still living my story. I'm still living this out, and my life is so completely different than what it was when my baby was 8 years old. It's completely different, and it was intentional, and that's what I want to help you do. If you are a mom, or if you are a person who wants to connect with me, then
I didn't notice that.
Then reach out to me. And it takes so much courage as a mother to say, you know what, I'm hurting, and I did this, and I don't know how to come out of it, and I have all this stuff in my life, and I don't know how to fix it. I don't know what to do. And I'm not a fixer. That's not what I do. I help you tap into who you are, and to bring the true you, the real you, and to help polish it, the diamond that you are, and to be able to shine forth as the beautiful person that you are. I'm not a fixer. I help you discover you, the real you, the you that God has created, and help you to polish it and take off all of the fear and all of the stuff, so that you can shine the way that God has intended you to shine. That's what I do as a life coach. But Josiah, do you have some key points to just wrap it up? Because we gotta go get Nick.
Oh yeah.
We gotta go get Nick.
Okay. If I have to say something, is I was always kind of closer to my mom, but ever since that point, our relationship has blossomed, and I'm really, really close to my mom. At first, that first instance of going back to that point, and this isn't just for a parent-child relationship, this can be in various other different types of relationships. It will be hard and uncomfortable and kind of awkward. You're going to feel a lot of emotions that will be difficult for you. But after you get through that one thing, not only will you feel a deeper connection, because then both parties will understand each other on an emotional level and a mental level, it'll get easier. Like,
Hmm.
even just today, I was just able to tell my mom how we had a conversation today without going into details and how she upset me. And
Yeah, you sure did
yeah,
earlier today. How something I said with just parenting, and it, how I upset him, and he was able to talk. We just talked about, it. And I was like, "Well, honey, this is my intention for having this conversation with you earlier." And it wasn't anything about it. It was just like this is a normal part of, and I didn't change what I said as far as the boundary that I set with him as a parent. That still remained. But then we had, because I acknowledged his feeling, I created space for him to share with me, Mom, this upset me when you said this. I was like, oh, okay, honey, I understand. And I understand why you felt this way. This is my intention for that. And he was like, I understand what you meant and how the reason why you said what you said. And it was just that. We just created space for each other. And that was that. I was still the mom. He was still the son. But there was this mutual respect. That's what you want to say?
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree.
Oh.
Like 100%. Like that's what it was.
A mutual respect.
Yeah, because all too often, I'm still a kid. I'm 18. I'm only legal barely. And I've talked to so many other kids my age, and the main thing that that disconnect with their parents is their parents don't see them necessarily as people, and they don't hear them. Or even what they don't say, they say you're not even allowed to disagree with me.
Wow.
That's some stuff. That's the North Korea stuff right there. I'm not even joking.
North Korea stuff. You heard it here, folks.
No.
Parenting from that mentality is the same energy level as the North Koreans.
Did you hear, like, they made it illegal to, like, show, I want to say it was, like, Patrick or something there, because they were making fun of the president. It's like, they can't even say he isn't good. Okay, so, yeah, that's...
So, allowing your I mean, we're not saying being disrespectful at all. Not at all. That's not what we're saying. But the same respect that you want to receive is important to give. So by respecting his emotions and respecting his opinion and allowing him to tell me honestly how he's feeling, that doesn't necessarily mean I have to change my position as a parent, but it just creates a way for him to emote and express and for us to have a mutual respect with each other. That's what we're trying to get across. But so just as a recap, you guys, because I need to go get Nicholas, like I said. He's at Fine Arts Camp, so I need to go get him. But just a quick recap, you guys, we will make mistakes as parents. There are things that we will do that will impact our kids, but when you know and you begin to heal and intentionally face your own wounds, you can quickly turn those mistakes around and redeem them. And it doesn't have to be a pattern for your life. There are things that I did before I was aware of being intentional about my parenting and in my own wounds and healing from my own wounds. There were things that I did that wounded my children. But once I began my own healing journey, I then was able to create a space for them to heal. So, and create a space for them to heal, create a space for them to emote, and for us to be able to build a mutual respect with each other. And that doesn't mean that I still, at times, don't parent out of certain wounds, because there are layers to this thing. Like Josiah said, this is an onion, and the awareness will continue on for the rest of our lives. But once you begin the journey, it becomes that much easier, and your relationship with your children will grow and blossom and prosper in ways that you have no idea. I absolutely adore my children, adore them, and I love their personalities, and I love spending time with them. I absolutely do. Thank you so much. This was a long broadcast, you guys. And for those of you who hung in there, because I saw the number, like it was kind of steady for most of the time. Thank you so much. I don't even know who hung in there the whole time. If you hung in there the whole time, could you give it just a really quick, like a like, a heart, or something? Just let us know. Like I stayed on, y'all. Thank you so much, you guys. I appreciate you guys popping on with us. Like I said, if this blessed you, please share it out. I know this is a long broadcast, but please share it out. Because someone needs to hear this. Another parent who may be going through something with their children, can really use this information. Join me again next Monday. It probably won't be this long for Mom Tuition Monday. Every Monday at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time with myself, Anitra Rice, life coach, educator, speaker, and martial artist. Thank you so much, Josiah, for joining us, for joining me.
It was special.
All right, guys. I love you. God bless. And Kia.
Yep.
He's a black belt. I didn't know that. Yeah, he's a black belt. All right. Deuces.